Ever since I started digging into Identity V lore back in late 2022, I've come to a conclusion. This stuff is too easy to understand. If you're literally the person who wrote it... Well, to be honest though, I'm not entirely convinced they know what the heck is going on either. Like seriously, the lore in this game is so cryptic, scattered, and suspiciously vague that I'm pretty sure even a university professor would throw their glasses, flip the desk, yelling that they're done with it. I mean, on paper it sounds cool. Detective mystery vibe. Kinda like Sherlock Holmes or Hercule Poirot. But then it suddenly throws in some full-on Lovecraftian nightmare fuel, mixes it with an episode from The Conjuring that even the director might have deleted for being a plot hole. And then, it slaps in a bunch of scientific stuff. We're talking thermodynamics, biology, chemistry, and random medical jargon that makes me feel like I should have brought a dictionary before opening the game. If that wasn't enough chaos, let's also add some time gap nonsense, plus a few retcons just to mess with you, all with a Loredrop that come once a year. When I first started, I honestly thought the lore was just supernatural ghosty stuff. Cute, spooky, I can deal with that. Then, science shows up, knocks on the door, and says, "Hey, I'm moving in." Right behind it comes crime drama, medical horror, and good old-fashioned murder mystery. At this point, I'm starting to question why I didn't pay more attention in high school instead of doodling anime characters in my notebook. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but just how bizarre is IDV lore? And that, my friends, is what today's video is about, which is about the 5 things that makes the IDV lore is a mess that is hard to understand. It's not really an educational breakdown. It's more like me grabbing a megaphone and screaming into the void about how Identity V lore is basically a psychological endurance test. These are just my personal opinions, so if you find the lore easy, good for you! That just means your brain runs on premium fuel while mine has been running on salt, memes, and instant noodles since 2010. Before we start, let's hit rewind and do a quick flashback of the overall Identity V lore, starting from the very beginning, the prologue. So, if you've been around since Season 1, you probably know the premise. We meet Orpheus, our so-called detective, except he's not exactly Sherlock Holmes material. He's an amnesiac, heavy-drinking mess of a man who gets commissioned by some guy named James Reichenbach. The task? Find his missing daughter. Simple, right? Well, the problem is, and for any of you who haven't noticed either, James doesn't even bother to tell Orpheus the girl's name. Like, sir, you want him to find your daughter, but you don't even tell him if she's a Mary, a Susan, or a Karen? How is he supposed to know? Psychic powers? Carrier pigeon? Internet? Should he just walk into the manor yelling, "Hey, random girl, are you James's kid?" And the cherry on top? Orpheus, our brilliant detective, just accepts the job. No questions asked. Dude, you're supposed to be suspicious. You're supposed to investigate. Instead, my guy just shrugs and goes, "Cool, missing nameless child. Sounds legit. Let me grab another drink first." I swear, he probably signed that contract while still hungover. Anyway, he stumbles his way to the infamous elitist manor in Glasgow, Scotland. This place looks like the kind of house you cross the street to avoid. It's dark, falling apart, and radiating "don't go in there" energy. But Orpheus goes in anyway because, well, what do you expect? He's Orpheus, and he's our protagonist of the story that must follow the script. So there he goes, into the manor, and from that, the horror begins. If the story can still be called horror, that is. So, at first, the story is relatively straightforward. A detective searching for a mysterious daughter in a creepy abandoned mansion, slowly uncovering the manor's secrets and his own shady past. Honestly, great setup. I was here for it. Very Sherlock Holmes goes horror. Very Hercule Poirot with jump scares. But then, well, let's see. Suddenly, new characters start flooding in, each dragging their own messy baggage into the story. Some of it still fits the detective horror vibe, but then the writers clearly said, you know what? Screw consistency. Let's have fun. Suddenly, supernatural beings are involved. Phantoms? Ghosts? Sure, throw them in. Monsters? Throw them in. At first, I was like, okay, this is fine. Maybe it's like Scooby-Doo. Except, instead of unmasking Old Man Jenkins, you get eaten by an eldritch monster. I could roll with that. But then, years roll on, and what do we get? Mechanical humanoid, undead being, aliens, Lovecraftian horrors, a literal demonic cult. You know what? At this point, I'm not even reading lore anymore. I'm straight up decoding Area 51 conspiracy files with a side of Cthulhu fanfiction. And just when I thought the writers couldn't possibly make this stew any spicier, Orpheus finds out the manor was also an illegal drug factory. Suddenly, chemistry and pharmacy just kick down the door like uninvited party guests. So now, our perpetually drunk detective has evolved from playing Sherlock Holmes to Ghostbuster to Alien Hunter to a side character in Breaking Bad, Victorian edition. By this point, I've completely lost track of the genre. Is this a detective story? A supernatural horror? A sci-fi alien invasion? A pharmaceutical drama? For me, it's starting to feel like the writers just spin a genre wheel of fortune every year and go, yep, that's the lore now. And here I am, desperately trying to make sense of it, looking like Charlie from It's Always Sunny, with the red string conspiracy board. Except, instead of connecting mafia schemes, I'm trying to figure out how ghost possession, cosmic horror, and meth labs all live under the same roof. But the genre isn't the only thing that makes IDV lores quite bizarre. The storytelling of IDV is also a nuclear bomb. It's like reading a book where the chapters are scattered across 3 different houses, and one of them is collapsing. How so? Well, here's the second reason. Scattered pieces of story. You veterans out there, you're adjusted to this. But I remember a time when I was innocent. I was a newbie. My biggest worry was whether I'll be able to kite a geisha for 5 seconds or no. Yes. Back then I didn't know the true horror of this game. The horror of trying to understand a character's backstory.
What happened?
Let me give you an example. Say you want to learn about Norton Campbell. You start simple. You read his backstory on the official website or the dev's social media. Cool, got the basics. He's a miner. He had an accident. Life sucks. Yada yada. But you want more. You want to know who he really is. What happened to him. All the juicy details. So you hop into his deduction quests. Easy enough. Just play him, unlock his story. Then you carry your deadweight teammates, suffer 20 matches in a row because you're trying to unlock deduction number 3 until you finally finish. Congratulations! And the game gives you, a cryptic message about Norton being a hard worker. That's it. You now have more questions than when you started. You repeat the same method, getting your sanity drained in a match while carrying your teammate who turned out to be AFK all along, all for the sake of unlocking all of his deduction quest. Mission accomplished, and all you get is one sad breadcrumb of lore. Congratulations, you've unlocked Trauma Appetizer, not the full course meal. Alright, no problem. You remember, hey, he's got birthday letters every year, right? So you start collecting those. Suddenly you're digging through more letters than your local post office. And yes, you do learn more about Norton, but not nearly enough. Because guess what? His lore is also hidden in other people's stories. That's right. You want to understand Norton? Go snoop around Mellie's letters, Alice's lore, Orpheus's hallucinations. Basically everyone but Norton himself. At this point, you're not playing a game. You're doing a full-blown investigation. Sherlock Holmes would have retired by now. And the info you get? It's vague. Like, you think you've got it figured out, and then someone asks, hey, what year did the mine accident happen? Suddenly you're sweating like you're in an oral exam. You go back through his files, nothing. You double-check the letters, still nothing. Then you end up solving a literal math puzzle with Alice's backstory and realize, oh, it was 1901. That's the answer. But notice, you had to deduce it yourself. The devs never say it. You had to play detective on your detective game. How's that for irony? Then another fan asks, since what age did Norton start working in the mine? Okay, you've got this. His second letter says he mined for 20 years. He's 28 in 1902. Accident in 1901 means he quit at 27. Do the math, oh my god! He started at age 7. My guy was out here mining coal before he even lost his baby teeth. Historically, this is accurate though, since back in the Victorian era, one can start work in the mine as young as 5 years old. Makes you wonder about the actual child labor laws, eh? And then it gets worse. Someone asks, so how long was Norton actually trapped in the cave? And you're like, okay, let me check his lore files. Nope. Other characters? Nada. At this point, you're left with wild guesses. Days, weeks, months, cannibalism? Hold up, where did that cannibalism theory even come from? Oh, just some good old-fashioned fan speculation. Basically, people started whispering that Norton must have resorted to cannibalism to survive. And why? Because the Golden Cave map has the word starving scribbled on it in creepy handwriting. That's it. That's the evidence. If it can still be called an evidence, that is. But no, it gets wilder. Another clue that Norton was a cannibal? It came from... wait for it. A Chinese-exclusive offline event. Yep. Not an in-game file, not a cutscene. A one-time regional event that literally no one outside of China could access. Still, the worst part is that after piecing all this together, you're connecting letters, maps, regional exclusives, you finally think, aha! Norton must have been trapped for days, maybe weeks. Maybe he ate his companion's corpse to survive. That has to be it. Canon confirmed. And then NetEase just waltzes in, drops the mic, and goes, lol, nope! He wasn't a cannibal. He was trapped for 2 days. I remember reading about the breakdown of this theory from Reddit. This theory was so popular back in 2020 that someone literally had to DM NetEase and ask, hey, was Norton out here snacking on his buddy? And NetEase straight up said, nope, absolutely not. He was trapped for 2 days only. Still, at that point, you just want to scream into the void. Bruh, didn't you yourselves hint at this in an offline package? But your voice doesn't reach NetEase. It doesn't reach the lore. It just echoes into the distant star.
Bye, have a great time.
Anyway, that's the key point, darling. To understand IDV lore, you don't just read files or unlock stories. No, you dig through fragmented notes, global versus regional events, half-legible map graffiti, and then you have to slide into the devs' DMs like you're asking them to prom just to get a straight answer. And half the time, I'm not convinced they even know what they're writing anymore. And by this point, you're just sitting there asking yourself, why? Why is the lore like this? Why can't it just be neat and simple, like reading a novel? Why do I have to play detective outside of the detective game? Well, folks, to that question, I only have one answer. Welcome to Identity 5. To be fair though, IDV isn't the only game that tells its lore in pieces. Many online games do this. Take Dota 2 for example. To understand a character's backstory, you have to piece it together from cosmetic items and other heroes' lore. However, the amount of puzzle solving required in IDV is on another level. What's worse, a single piece of the puzzle can often turn out to be a whole new riddle to solve. So, in my experience with this whole Identity 5 lore, I swear I've spent more time trying to decode it than actually playing the game. Like, every match is 5 minutes of running from the hunter, and then 5 hours of me staring at lore notes going, what the hell does this mean? You read one line, then you gotta check another character's backstory, then cross-reference it with a map description, then argue with 3 lore nerds on Discord who all have PhDs in IDV lore. By the end of it, I don't feel like a gamer. I feel like a freelance unpaid detective. Let me give you an example. Martha Remington, later Martha Riley, mother of Lisa Beck. Popular belief? She died during a botched abortion. But here's the kicker. That's not directly stated anywhere. It's just guessed. Yeah. Our evidence is Lydia Jones' deduction quest, which, by the way, doesn't even say abortion. It just says Lydia offered private medical services for women, which is the most vague, Victorian-sounding nonsense I've ever heard. Like, was it abortion, or was she just handing out herbal tea in Medol? But players put on their Sherlock caps. Private medical services! And strange activity. Oh, there's a bag of garbage outside the clinic, ripped open by dogs. Inside, human corpse, maybe, baby-sized. And the fandom goes, aha! Illegal abortions confirmed. And at first, I was like, oh, okay, that actually makes sense. Dr. Jones is a shady doctor. Martha was pregnant. The doctor screws up. Martha dies. Boom, solved. I felt smart. I was like, Detective Conan ain't got nothing on me. Well, except, turns out I'm an idiot. Because then, in Freddie Riley's birthday letter, yeah, the lawyer's birthday letter, not even Martha's own lore, it casually drops. Oh yeah, Martha decided to leave Freddie, and decided to raise her baby into a good girl. Excuse me? Raise the baby? So she kept the baby? So why the hell would she be signing up for Lydia's back alley abortion services? What did she do? Schedule an abortion, then cancel like it was a gym membership? Like, I'm sitting there spiraling, questioning my life choices, with 20 tabs open like a conspiracy theorist. Well, maybe it wasn't abortion. Maybe it was pregnancy complications. Maybe Netties just forgot what they wrote. Meanwhile, the fandom is split like some kind of lore custody battle. Team A. Yes, Martha had an abortion. Team B. No, it wasn't an abortion. And me? I'm just sitting in the middle like, guys, I just wanted to play tag with Mary. Why am I suddenly an OB-gen? And the best part? After all this brain damage, the real answer? Only Netties knows. I half-assed believe that their attitude is basically, we don't know either. You figure it out. You know what's worse? That whole headache with Martha Remington? That's just one character. And she's not even playable. Like, Sis doesn't even show up on the field, yet she already made me feel like I failed literature class. Now, if you think that's bad, I'd try looking at the experiment files for characters who actually are in the game. Martha B. Handful, Ada Messmer, Helena Adams. Oh boy. Grab a drink. You're gonna need it. Martha B. Handful's file? It talks about her tragic fate that every game participant encounters. Okay, cool. But what does that even mean? Everyone dies tragically? Everyone stubs their toe? Be specific, Netties. Then we've got Ada Messmer's file. It says she paid the ultimate price. Paid what? With what? Her wallet? Her soul? Her Starbucks membership card? Y'all can't just drop a dramatic one-liner like that and walk away. And Helena's experiment files? They say she's the only Punisher of the game. Which sounds metal as hell, but again, Punisher of what exactly? Survivors? Hunters? My sanity? Honestly, at this point, the only person getting punished here is me for trying to understand this. Above all else, I'm dumb enough to keep doing it. Every time. Like, I'll complain, I'll rant, I'll say I hate it. Then at 2 a.m., you'll still find me zooming into a pixelated bag of garbage on Lydia's clinic floor like, enhance, enhance, is that a baby? Gosh, I need a hobby. So here's another thing with IDV lore, birthday letters. Yeah, every character gets one on their birthday, once a year. And that letter? That's supposed to be the main story for the character. Sure, you might get some extra crumbs from skins, deduction quests, or random event text, but the real meal is always the birthday letter. Problem is, it's served one tiny bite per year. Imagine watching Netflix, but instead of dropping episodes weekly, they give you one line of dialogue every 12 months. Yeah, that's IDV lore. So what do people do while waiting? They guess, they theorize, they cook. And that's where the chaos begins. Lore theorists in IDV are like chefs who only have 3 ingredients, but they're all making completely different meals based on their expertise. Someone makes a soup, someone makes a spaghetti, someone makes a fried rice, and someone else just lights the kitchen on fire. See? 4 completely different cookings. 4 different theories, each with its own fan club ready to defend it like it's a PhD dissertation. And me? I'm just sitting here thinking about my whole miserable life. And the best part? After all this chaos, after people fight, argue, and break friendships over whose theory is right, NetEase drops another lore piece. And guess what? That one lore drop instantly breaks all 4 theories. Just burns them alive. It's like watching people build a house for a year, and then NetEase comes in with a wrecking ball like, oops, sorry, wrong lot. So yeah, characters' lore is confusing. Not just because NetEase drops crumbs instead of full meals, not just because theorists turn into cult leaders, but also because sometimes I'm just too dumb to get it. Like, I'll read the letter 3 times and still sit there like, cool story. But who's Evelyn again? At the end of the day, you can't be sure if you should keep studying the lore or just uninstall the game and play Roblox instead. Out of all the bizarre things in IDV lore, the timeline might just be the scariest monster of them all. Forget the hunters. This timeline will eat your sanity alive. First of all, we don't even know when the game is supposed to take place. If you check all the scraps of info we've got, the Manor game happens somewhere between 1896 and 1902. Okay, cool. That's the Victorian era. So what should we expect? No flashlights, no robots, no jetpacks. Jetpack? Myth. Remote-controlled robot? Just a sketch in some mad scientist's notebook. Flashlight? Maybe in a lab somewhere. Not in the hands of some random creature Pearson. But then, Identity 5 said, nah, rules don't matter. Suddenly we've got robot kids, jetpacks, cars, and I swear at this point, aliens wouldn't even surprise me. Like, sure, supernatural phenomenon, Lovecraft horror, detective stories, demon cults, crime syndicate, throw it all in the blender. Why not? Now, that would be fine if the plot actually matched the timeline, but oh no, it doesn't. Let me explain. Take Orpheus, born in 1878. We're told in the prologue that his neighbors were Freddie and Martha Riley, the most hated couple on the block. Maybe. Still, that makes sense, right? Except Freddie died in 1899, and Martha, even earlier. So if adult Orpheus is still hanging out next door to them after 1902, who exactly was his neighbor? Ghosts? Doppelgangers? Or just netties forgetting their own homework? And Alice DeRoss? Don't even get me started. She escaped Melbourne at 21, which should be around 1902. But in Martha B. Hamfell's 6th letter, it's implied Alice was already investigating her in 1900 or 1901. Girl, how are you in Melbourne and detectiving in Europe at the same time? Did you invent teleportation before Tesla? Please share the notes. So, how does NetEase fix this chaos? Well, sometimes they don't. They just retcon it. Remember when Orpheus's neighbors were Freddie and Martha? Retconned. Now it's, some random little boy. I mean, okay, sure. Why not? Retcons also happened with Emil's experiment file, Smiley Face's biodata, and plenty more. Basically, if you spend too much time piecing the lore together, congratulations! You're setting yourself up to watch it get deleted or declared as mistranslation later. So yeah, GG NetEase, thanks for the gaslighting, love it. Totally not wasting my free time and brain cells on this spaghetti timeline. Anyway, despite all the bizarre chaos swirling around IDV lore, I don't know if it's just me losing my marbles here, or if some of you feel the same too. But from what I've seen, and from the lore nerds I've chatted with, confusion seems to be a shared experience. Like, we're all in this fog together. And yet, despite the messy timelines, mistranslations, and retcons, this lore community is still thriving, still active, still full of people who actually want to figure this puzzle out, which begs the question, why? Why is the lore still so hard to crack? Why doesn't NetEase throw us a bone and make things a little less confusing? And, most importantly, why are we all still here, willingly banging our heads against this 5,000-piece jigsaw puzzle with half the pieces missing? Well, I tried to think of some answers, and I've got a few possible reasons, which I'll spill in the next video. But hey, this is just my take. If you disagree, that's fine. Like I've said before, my brain is currently powered by nothing but instant ramen, while your brain might be running on premium fuel. In that case, respect. You rock. Please carry me. Thanks for watching, Silmina. Signing out.